All right, you guys, we are starting into our ink technique. This handout should be near the front of the classroom for you. There are 4 different, really the bread and butter of ink drawing. The first one is hatching. So I've given you an example on the worksheet just to help you remember. Hatching is kind of like parallel lines. So very lightly with your pen, you're going to work lines that are very close to each other and all working in the same direction. Notice what I'm not doing. I am not pressing really hard and trying to work right to the end. You end up with wobbly lines that are too heavy. They have no finesse. So try to draw really lightly with the tip of your pen. Do the best you can to fill in this box. I do expect you to really try to work right to the edge. Sometimes I have to pull my pen stroke in a different direction so that I can stay inside the box, okay? If they overlap a little bit, that's okay, but your goal is to have them all working the same direction. As I work along here, you're creating a value scale. More lines with ink make a darker value. It's not like pencil where you could just press harder, right? So more lines and you're getting a really dark value. I'm trying to darken this here if you get the idea. Fewer lines will give you a lighter value, and even fewer lines, and you get to the point here where you've hardly got any to fill in your white box. That value scale should look something like this one when it's all said and done. You can truly see 4 distinct values. Last step on here, using this exact same technique, I want you to shade in whatever the shape is that I've left you at the end of the line. I've given you a cute little light bulb to show you your light source. So I know that the side of this box is the lightest. I might just do kind of a few lines in here. The top of the box is probably a little bit darker, still working only in hatching. And the side of this box is probably the darkest. See if I can get a nice dark value. Obviously you need to be neater than I'm being right now. I'm trying to hurry so I can do a short video for you. And lastly, I will send it back to you if you don't give me a cast shadow. So taking kind of this direction and this direction away from the light source, I'm going to go ahead and hatch a really dark shadow onto the ground underneath my cube, right off the edge of the page. Next one up on this list here is cross hatching. So it's the same thing as hatching, only now they're crisscrossing. So again, with your light pen strokes filling the box, I like to turn my paper. My hand tends to be comfortable working in one direction, and I cross those lines. This is great for any kind of texture like a burlap sack. It's also really great for filling in shadows. Okay, I can even go a 3rd direction. I'm trying to go quickly so my lines stay light, but what I don't want to see is this. Okay, it looks like bad fur. You really need to be pulling a nice clean line and then turning the direction and working a different way. Again, more lines, darker value. Less lines, you're going to have what I would call a lighter value. To shade your cylinder, the top is flat, so that's pretty easy. We're just going to shade it in one flat cross-hatched value. But now you've got to give me blending. It goes from light to dark. My tendency, my preference is to sort of start over on my dark side and then start spreading my lines out as I go around. Then I'm going to give myself some cross contour lines. This time I'm going to curve. This is a round object. I can't do straight lines across it. It will look weird. So I'm going to curve my hatching lines in here so that I keep sort of the dimension of the object. And again, I could add some angled lines in here to give me a really dark shadow on that side. And I need my shadow all in cross hatching. You get the idea. Here's what it should look like. There's our cross hatching, 4 obvious values. A little bit of blending here as best you can, and a cast shadow. Moving on, this is my personal favorite. We call it Squiggle. It's the same thing as scribbles. Okay, you're just going to do kind of loose, loopy lines. This makes a little more sense on an object. When you're just doing it in a box, it's kind of random. What I don't want to see is this. Okay, that's way too organized and it's distracting from whatever you're drawing. Scribbles, basically. That's all we're doing. So it's a looser style of drawing, and some people really like doing it with ink. More lines, darker value. For this one, it's a little bit tricky. Just kind of hold your pen as lightly as possible to put some squiggles in that light value. Now over here, light to dark. Again, I sort of like to start by shading in the dark side. And as I cross this object, I keep my scribbles curving. That's where it's important that we think about the direction of our ink work and not doing the random loops like I showed you here. Cast shadow, scribble that in super duper dark. Easy. And this one should look something like that when it's done. Last one on here, probably the most important ink technique, but also the most tedious, is called stippling. They're tiny little dots. Stippling, that's what it's called. It is not called pointillism. You'll hear that word thrown around in the art world. That has to do with color theory. Stippling is the act of making tiny little dots. Lots and lots of dots makes your dark value. Only a few dots and you've got your light value. Lots and lots of dots means this. So you really need to have patience, and what I tell kids sometimes, do some stippling and then go back to one of the others and come back to your stippling, because some kids just really can't sit with this for that long and make tiny dots. The no-nos here, don't do this. I find kids slamming the pen on the table, it wrecks the tip of the pen, and they also start rushing, and what they really have are these little check marks. That is not good stippling. Over here on our sphere, I've got the light source. I chose the sphere, it's the most difficult to blend, and stippling is the easiest technique to use when blending. You can blend almost perfectly. Stippling is great for soft things like flower petals, maybe sand on the beach, clouds in the sky, and you can be really accurate with your shading and how you blend it, so it's super important for stuff like this. Obviously, we need to cast shadow here. Please don't do a big circle like I just did. That was stupid. Because it just leaves you with an outline, and now I really have to make my stippling super dark to make that outline go away. But that's what you'll have to do if you did what I did. Okay, you get the idea. Here's what that looks like on your stippling row. Okay? When you're done with this assignment, I'm doing one whole video all together here. Your next assignment is to apply these 4 concepts to 4 bottles. Your 4 bottles, you actually don't have to do this off the top of your head. There is a worksheet for you to look at with short directions on each one. So again, parallel lines, also called hatching. And then notice the difference in values, more lines and less lines to shade this bottle. You've got cross hatching, again, you know what that is, but pay attention as we go across the bottle, those lines are curving with the form of the cylinder. And again, you see darker areas, medium and light areas. The stippling, give me a bazillion dots, please. And then over here, we've got the scribbling. Again, I see dark areas and light areas and even sort of a white shiny area. And the trick here with your scribbles, keep it curving around that cylinder. So you're doing that work on this sheet. I gave you sort of a pencil outline of the bottle so you don't have to worry about drawing them. Okay, let me know if you have questions.